Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Dig It with Imani, where we break down the digital world and what it means for justice, safety, and inclusion across Africa. Today, we are zooming in on form of violence that's often invisible but deeply harmful, technology facilitated abuse or did online gender-based violence. Across Africa, young people are being blackmailed, outed, stalked, or shamed online, and it's not happening in vacuum. It's connected to gender, power, and systems that don't protect us. Whether it's revenge porn, fake health information, or online surveillance, these are really attacks with really world consequences. So, joining me today are two powerful young people who are speaking out and taking action, Martin from Ghana and James from Kenya. And we will hear how young people are experiencing technology facilitated gender based violence, where the systems are failing, and what must be done to make it safe. Now, let's dig it. How is Kenya? How is Ghana?
Right. Ghana is cool. It's a bit cold, not too cold. It's rain season, so I mean we like the weather this way and we hope it continue this way, but it's not going to be like this forever. I mean the hot season is going to hit back again, but we love this weather now.
Aha. How is Kenya majirani? I'm in Tanzania.
Jirani wako sawa. Kenya is good. It's a little bit rainy in Nairobi,
Uh-huh.
and as usual, as you have seen, we are on the streets, uh, fighting against extrajudicial killings and other injustices.
Oh,
But
I'm so sorry
overall,
for what
we are good.
happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So to kick off our discussion in one line, what would it take for the internet to feel truly safe and inclusive for young people like you?
Well, for me to have a very safe online activities and also feel safe at online is when there is more kind of a strict law or a strong law that will protect online users, especially for young people as well. And also, I won't feel that anytime I get to online, I feel scammed or being blackmailed. That is what means safe for me to be online.
Um, on my side, um, is where when navigating these digital spaces, I have the confidence to navigate them. I know how to go about it, and having spaces where our voices as young adults are trusted, our diversities are protected, and we are not being punished by who we are, and always having the confidence that we'll be supported and not silenced in any way.
Okay, can you share with us a little bit what the digital rights landscape looks like in your respective countries? Let me start with Martin.
Okay. So, the question again, I think I didn't get the last part.
Martin?
Yeah, Imani, I didn't get the last part.
I said, what's the political landscape looks like in your country? I mean, digital rights landscape looks like in your country.
Well, the digital landscape, it's sometimes young people kind of sometimes feel face some challenges using the digital landscape, and we've had some great and amazing stories so far with the research that we had here on the focus group discussion. And young people, some people are able to afford the internet. Some people also living in some areas like the rural areas, I mean, find it very difficult to even get um, a gadget or a mobile phone or an internet to be able to access to get some source of information. So one way it's good in the urban areas, but other way it's also not kind of a good story in some areas, in even in the urban areas and also in the rural areas too as well.
Hmm.
But in all, it's for me, It's something that we are all trying to work on to have a very safe space because we have issues, people also facing cyberbullying on the internet, and sometimes it's very difficult for them to even get justice whenever they report issues like that. So these are some of the few challenges that we are facing here. And even if someone is going to get justice for whatever harassment or maybe scam that has, experienced online, it's always take a very long time, and sometimes it being taken a long time, it can be trashed out or something like that. So it's really the wrongs sometimes outweigh the very good stories that we hear over here.
Hmm. James, how is it in Kenya?
So the digital health landscape in Kenya first is characterized by the high internet penetration of about 92%. About 92% of Kenyans are able to access internet, although with some challenges, economic challenges, and also stigma. But also we have very large digital gender barrier, especially affecting young women. And for example, we know that this barrier first is on the mobile ownership aspect, where we have about 12% difference in mobile ownership and also in data access. And when you come to the digital access itself on when accessing health information, we have things, barriers to digital inclusion affecting young adults. We have the issues of stigma, especially for key populations and young people or young adults living with HIV. We have the issue of now the education level and culture and how that intersect with access and the power dynamics of gaining and sharing health information online. We have the issue of digital harms. The technology facilitated abuse was one of the things which was widely reported by the young people we talked to, issues of privacy, and also young people talk about the weak links, the privacy provisions and laws in Kenya, which we have significant number of them, which are very strong, but implementation is a bit weak. So in summary, the digital landscape in Kenya is growing at a very fast rate, but we are lagging behind when it comes to protection and safety for young adults in Kenya.
Thank you so much. Martin, the Digital Health and Rights Project's report shares the shocking stories about how young people in Ghana, especially girls and sex workers, are being harmed online. Can you walk us through one of these stories and what it reveals about the digital risks that young people face?
Okay, so one of the shocking and one of the most sad stories we came across was a young woman told us she shared her private photos to someone, and unfortunately, those photos got leaked online. So one, you can imagine the kind of trauma this young lady is going to go through, and not just the trauma. I mean, the trauma also comes with the mental health too as well. And also we have discrimination and stigmatized both online and in person. So this story shows how a vulnerable young girl um, go through each and everyday life on the very onset that it was a mistake that she trusted this person already and she shared the photos with this person. One, it was a mistake that she didn't even recognize that, okay, me sharing this photo to someone can lead to leakage or something like that. She thought she was safe doing that, but on the other hand, the photo got leaked. The question is, how did the photo got leaked?
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask yourself this question so many times, but she doesn't have answers to those questions. So after that, she got insulted online, she lost some friends, and also, she a whole lot of shame was brought upon her, and this shows how badly that can affect her online and also in person. So um, these are some great and so sad stories that we came across during our research, and also people that we came encountered with shared with us.
James, you have mentioned that Kenya has very high internet penetration, which I agree. But you also mentioned that safety hasn't kept up. What kind of online abuses are young people telling you about, and what makes it so hard for them to report and get justice?
Yes. Now, behind those stories of high internet penetration lies some very painful truths, especially for us as young adults, for young women, for LGBTQ plus youth, and also those living with HIV. All's presence in online platforms is usually not as empowering as would like it to be. It's usually very risky and sometimes very dangerous. And our research told us about stories of young people who face serious harms, the issues of stalking, blackmail, non-consensual outing, and constant surveillance. And from just searching for information about sexuality and reproductive health, or just receiving a clinic reminder on your WhatsApp, can lead to these threats or shame. For example, we had a young adult in Nairobi who told us that when I share information about SRHR or abortion, she usually gets inbox calling immoral, and even some of those people threatening her uh, that they will cause physical harm to her. But she says she can't just go to the police because the police will laugh at her and just blame her. So there's that fear of judgment or blame, which brings a very huge barrier to reporting. And sometimes it's not just about the abuse itself, it is the stigma behind it that makes it impossible for young people and young adults to speak it up. Also, we had another discussion in Kitui, which is a rural area in Ukambani in Kenya, where a young woman there shared was about how a friend took screenshots from a HIV support group on WhatsApp and shared it with another people, making her to be very isolated and shamed, and also revealing her status without consent. So it makes these people to be stigmatized, even sometimes having those suicidal ideations. And these are just not digital risks. They are reflecting into the other aspect of the world. They are real life and death issues, not just the digital harm that we talk to, but can actually translate into physical harm. And when it comes to reporting, I think the largest gap that exists there is knowledge and also stigma. Young people not knowing where to go, and if they know where to go, they fear that they will be further exposed, they'll be judged, or the system which exists now they will re-traumatize them further, especially if their identity and their health issues and status carry a lot of stigma. The issues of HIV are still stigmatized in my country. LGBTQ are still stigmatized. So think of it just going to report only in harm when you belong to those key populations. And
Um,
that's why, yeah.
I am trying to think that this is the challenge when it comes to accountability. This means different stakeholders have not been accountable to what they're supposed to do to make this digital space safe. I would love to hear from Martin. What does accountability look like for you, both from platforms and from the government actors, and maybe from other actors like NGO and digital rights advocates and young people themselves?
Me,
Yes.
okay. So for me, accountability means both government and also tech companies must come in contact with the digital space, and also if someone reports or if someone is harmed, the person should be taken seriously and removed fast, especially with every material that has been leaked online. Those materials need to be removed fast because a lot of times when people report these issues, um, the tech companies or the government or even the societies that being reported to don't really act fast on taking out most of the materials that were released online, but rather focus on the case. And whilst those issues or those materials are being leaked online, it keeps traveling, and each and every person gets to see it, and the rumors get to spread really fast as well. So for me, I think the government and also the tech companies should come and work in hand to be able to take such materials that are leaked online fast in order to move forward to proceed with the justice or whatever thing that they need to tackle.
James, we have seen that platforms are really slow to act, especially on harmful content hosted abroad. What reforms are needed to make platforms more accountable to Kenyan youth?
Yes, that is something which we have seen over and over again, where a young adult experience real harm online, and the platform, they are not just too slow to act, but sometimes they don't act at all. For example, when harmful content is hosted abroad, it can feel like it's shouting to avoid. And for Kenyan youth, that silence is devastating. So one, the harm is immediate. Maybe it's blackmail, it's a leak photo, but the response takes years to happen. And in that gap, young adults lose trust with these platforms. So some of them just leave the platforms uh, altogether. Others retreat from speaking openly about their health and identity. So what do we need to do? First, I think we need to have this platform be legally accountable where the harm happens, not just where the company is headquartered, where they have their headquarters. We need strong enforcement also of the data protection and content moderation rules that reflects the local realities of the Kenyan people. If a young person is exposed in Nairobi or is being blackmailed in Migori, there needs to be clear, fast, and survivor-centered response. Second, we also need to have localized content moderation with teams based in Kenya or in other African regions who understand our languages, who understand our culture, and the specific risks that we face as young people in these areas. And that content which might be acceptable in other areas might not be really acceptable in our area in Kenya, and that can pose life-threatening consequences here. And
Yeah.
lastly, while we must push for better moderation, we must also protect freedoms and agency, personal freedom and agency, where young adults are able to speak about their health, their sexuality, their identities without being silenced. So, in short, I'm saying the goal is not about censorship, it's about accountability. We need moderation that understands the nuance, the difference between hate and health education and between abuse and activism.
Speaking about content moderation and localization, I thought Kenyans are like way forward than other East African countries because I heard even Meta have like sub office in Kenya. So does they consider hiring local content moderators from Kenya so that they can really understand the jargons, vocabularies, and shanks?
I don't think so, because for example, for X, when you have a post which is damaging to you, the reporting process is usually very long. You report, then there's a reporting, for example, on X, then it takes like a week before you get a response. And most of the time, the standards which are put for such issues are not what we expect for human rights considerations. So they'll talk about character assassination if the information is true, but they don't look at the human rights aspect of it. So the moderation might be there, but it's not through the lenses of human rights.
Okay. The gap between young people and adults on tech safety is quite wide. what are some solutions would you propose, especially in schools or communities, to close the gap?
That's for me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. The gap is quite large, and it stems from how we view digital technologies by different generations. The young will be seen as tech savvy, and our seniors might sometimes not fully understand the kind of digital harms that young people face today. So, what can we do?
Mm,
The best way to harm people to protect themselves is to give them the right skills, the right education to identify harm and to know how to respond to it. So we need things like right-based digital literacy in our schools, spaces where we are not just talking about the usual things of passwords and devices, but about privacy, about consent, about how to recognize abuse, and about
mm,
how platforms can expose people, especially when you're talking about sexuality, things about HIV and gender identity. And this is part of life skills and health education that cannot be made optional. Another
okay.
thing, one adult told us that when they are facing these risks, no one usually asks them how they are going to fix it. Even in
Mm-hmm.
school, we are just talking about password, not when what happens when someone leaks your chats. So we need peer-led approaches into these issues and have intergenerational dialogues to understand how we can have a collective in addressing the issues of digital safety.
Martin, you told us very well about accountability. If you had the mic in Parliament for 1 or 2 minutes, what would you say to lawmakers about digital safety for Ghana's youth?
Okay, so if I have the opportunity to sit down with parliament or the lawmakers of my country, I think it's going to be more fun to have this conversation in place. But I would tell the lawmakers in Ghana that the youth are using internet each and every blessed day to learn, to create content, to even work, and also to sell online. I mean, that is the ish these days that young people use to market their using the online stuff. So moving forward, and also we can't take out the fact that the internet has come to stay, and it also help us to grow in so many ways in such a way that even lately students don't go through a whole lot of stress to even research online with your chat GP and other um internet or maybe website that we can use to do research has come hand very easy to us and we don't need to struggle and all that. But many are being harmed because the digital space is not safe at all. And sometimes we need the national policies to protect the rights of people using this online space as well. And also we also need a digital literacy in school also, I mean, education should be much more be inclusive in all aspects of our education and also clear system to also make reporting of this kind of harm and also blackmail very easy to as well because a young person might face digital discrimination online and other stuff and sometimes it's really difficult to even get access to this space to even report to as well. And even if you walk through to any CSOs or maybe other NGOs, sometimes it's really difficult. Ghana is about who knows you. I don't know in other parts of the world. Ghana, someone has to
I
know
think
you.
it's the same.
You need not to know someone. Someone has to know you in Ghana here. And I think it will be such a privilege to some of us who don't know who someone doesn't know us up there or maybe in top security agencies or in top decision making places that so that we can be able to access these places easily, effortless, without being judged, without being questioned. And we have, I mean, the confidence to tell, I mean, this government and also security agencies This is some of the hard work um, leaders and government to be when
Thank you so much. James, if you could change one thing about how Kenya responds to digital gender based violence, what would it be?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So, if there was one thing which I could change, I said it would be culture. And I think that is a very big barrier that we need to confront. Because when young people face these harms, most of the time we don't offer them the immediate help that they need. We go on to blame them for the misfortune that has faced them, to silence them, and sometimes we just act in disbelief. And when this happens, the survivors and the victims of violence believe that their pain does not count.
Mm-hmm.
And because and when this happens, everything will trickle down into a system where people are afraid to speak up. They don't report, they don't seek help, and in the end they carry the harm alone, and other people see the same things happening, and the lack of response from these systems, it becomes like a routine that you are harmed, then you don't get help. But if you could change that one thing about culture and have a system that listens first, that protects first, that holds the perpetrators of these harms accountable, everything else could start to follow. Survivors would come forward, trust would grow, and justice would begin to trickle down.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Thank you so much, Martin and James. It's really clear that digital rights are youth rights, are young people rights, everyone's right, and the internet won't be safe until systems are built with us, youth, in mind. To our listeners, please keep asking questions, keep engaging, but also push for policy change and join the Make It Safe movement, sign the pledge, and so that we can both join forces to make the digital space inclusive, friendly, and enjoyable for everyone. And yeah, you have been listening and watching to Dig It with Imani, the podcast. Catch you next time. Until then, and stay safe, stay sharp, and stay radical online. It's your host, Iman Henlik. Till next time.